Sorry. Did it come up with the ALCOSAN of the house when you talk about?
Apparently.
We good?
Don't wait to hear from me. All right.
Okay,
we're good to go.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Just want to say welcome to everybody here this evening. And Stevie, if you could do the roll call for us, please.
Good afternoon, all. Cindy Bond.
Present.
Lisa Werder-Brand.
Present.
Lloyd Cunningham. Dan DeMarco. Patricia DeMarco. Tina Doucet. Arian Ford Graver. Nick Reesock.
Yes, sir.
Was
here.
No.
It's Mark Heckman.
Mark Heckman.
Here.
Kelly Kelly.
Here.
Ken Lasota. Ruthie Ann Omer.
Here.
Will Pickering. Mary Ellen Ramage.
Here.
Tim Rogers.
Here.
Kathy Sapp. Danielle Ventresca.
Here.
Sean Alfonso Wells. We have 8.
Correct. We have 18 seated members. We need 10 for quorum, so we're too short. We cannot take official action on our action item. We can receive reports, otherwise have discussions.
Can the minutes be voted on electronically and then ratified at the next meeting?
No.
No.
They essentially, under the Sunshine Act, they are available, even though they're still in draft form. If you come to the next meeting and they aren't approved, they become available for anybody that wanted to request them, but generally, no, we don't allow written votes.
Okay.
Yeah, so did I mishear you? We can or cannot give the reports?
We can.
We can. Okay.
Can't take any formal
Action.
action.
Right. Okay, great. We're going to start with the working group report. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. I wanted to ask if everybody not on the board could introduce themselves so that everybody knows who else is here. Starting over here.
Big monster rivers.
Kimberly Craterwood, ALCOSAN.
Karen Gantoni, Finance, ALCOSAN. Savannah Thomas, Procurement Officer, ALCOSAN.
Arlen Williams, Executive Director.
Max Junker with Fast Callan, the solicitor.
Derek Evans, communication with ALCOSAN.
Engineering.
Some pre-votes for the programs.
Shell Odds and Bar. Darren Smith, PWO, ALCOSAN.
Dean Clark, Governmental Affairs, ALCOSAN.
Stephanie Conley, Government Affairs, ALCOSAN.
We have one more, so
We're on number 9.
Okay. Did you say one more person came on?
yeah, Nick came on. Nick Reesock.
Okay. We're up to 9.
Hello. Better late than never.
Yep.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Marcus said that he was going to join us electronically.
Okay, we're going to start with the advisory group committee meetings, and I'd like to start. We have 3 this time: GROW, Clean Water Assistance Fund, and the flow reduction. Lisa, I believe you're going to be reporting on the GROW.
Yes. So again, Tim gave us an update on the program, and we're in cycle 8. Are you going to present tonight? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not going to repeat stuff.
You got this, Lisa.
Okay. All right. So he received 15 POC applications out of 18 were invited. The award is estimated between $6 and $8 million. but we've been talking in the meetings a lot about assisting communities who haven't previously participated in GROW, and really communities that are, on the farther stretches of the system, and also are, maybe environmental justice communities, those kinds of communities. So after this round, there's going to be 30 million, or is there 30 million in now?
There'll be 30.
There'll be 30 million in still remaining in the GROW fund. And so Tim Rogers asked if there were any projects that have been initiated by ALCOSAN rather than the municipality, and Tim Prevost responded no. But Tim Rogers wanted to know if you could use GROW money for trunks transfer line rehabilitation work, and said that Tim Prevost said that the municipalities can apply for GROW if they have a defect and water is coming in. Fixing that problem will help with regionalization and transfer. So those are the stipulations. It has to be able to help with regionalization and the transfer. So an invitation was sent to meet with Three Rivers Wet Weather and ALCOSAN to North Braddock and Rankit for those municipalities to collaborate on GROW program projects. So it will require a collaborative agreement, and that will need to be approved by their council. So that's always time consuming, those kinds of things. So it's, we spoke last GROW meeting about some sites in Braddock that were really ideal for projects. And so it seems like a very good place to start in that kind of collaborative work. Tina Doucet is working on a project with a private organization to establish a community benefit plan. And there's a forum in August with some communities that are struggling: Braddock, North Braddock, Rankin, East Pittsburgh, Turtle Creek, and Forest Hills. And an invitation will be extended to ALCOSAN. So Jeannie Clark was going to meet with R.K. Mellon Foundation to solicit support for municipalities on their flow reduction projects, because we talked about that possibility in that, many of the projects have been located in a more affluent communities. And if we could get foundation funding to help support projects that are in some of our more distressed communities, that would be very significant. And we think that that might be something that they would be willing to fund. We continue to discuss about how to help municipalities that haven't participated in GROW within the guidelines. And, we continue to discuss those inabilities for those communities that have problems getting together, whether it's the match funding or the initial capacity to do plans, to do, any of the things that have to happen before they can even apply. And so it's a stretch for some of these communities. They just don't have the capacity. They don't have the human resources. They don't have the expertise. And so, ALCOSAN has done some outreach with municipalities on these new methodologies, determining where the communities can benefit from GROW. And basically, we're continuing to discuss those funding options, discuss the customer assistance program outreach that was brought up in this meeting. I don't know why, because we did have a meeting with the customer assistance program committee. And so that was we continued to discuss about foundation funding for underserved communities. So we're going to continue to work on these. I mean, a lot of this is a reiteration of our last meeting, but we're just moving forward slowly, trying to, take baby steps in the right direction, and hopefully we can see some benefits to these more distressed communities.
Thank you.
Are we compelled by the consent decree to have a GROW program?
I don't believe so.
I would have to look, but I don't think, I mean, regionalization, we've pointed to the consent order, but I don't think Grove ever came out of that.
So,
Let us go agree to do it.
right. So if we've got money in the growth program, that is, we rather have current projects. I'm wondering if, I'm not trying to throw a bomb here, but should we consider taking that 30 million and using it to as a rate relief? I mean, I'm hearing, and I wanted to bring it up later, discussion about rates. So if there's an opportunity to throw 30 million at the budget, we might be able to blunt some of the rate increases that are coming. Currently, in my water bill, I'm spending almost 3 times to get rid of the water that I'm buying. And that's going to continue to go up. And you look at PWSA, that's got a pretty big rate increase coming for water. You know, we, as an advisory committee, we got to start talking about rates and something. And, you know, so if there's no projects to 30 million, throwing 30 million at rates might help. Just want to throw that up.
But Tim, if you're
suggesting that we close the growth program, we don't accept future applications.
I'm raising that as a consideration. You know, and that's not fair for me to say that because my municipality has benefited greatly by growth. We've done a lot of growth work. And to the point where I walked out the door, I was yelled at by my finance officer that I left no money in the sanitary sewer account. But I thought as a manager, it was good to take advantage of the program. But if you're sitting on 30 and it's sitting there, and so, yeah, I guess that's what I'm suggesting. I just think that if we're dropping 10 years of 7% rate increases, you know, we're piling the hell out of people on rates. And, you know, I didn't notice it before. And then when you take a look, not only is ALCOSAN hitting rate, the municipalities hit rate. I mean,
Well, and that's part of what I was gonna say. I think a lot of communities are using the grow money to meet their requirements under their consent orders. So the projects that they're required to do, so that would taking that opportunity, you know, that opportunity away from some of them could be an issue too.
But if you're throwing $30 million out, my concern with something like that is it going to be a one-off? Or we're going to throw this $30 million out there, and we're going to end up with rate increases anyway, you know, and it's going to be a Band-Aid and
For a couple of
years, and it's not really going to make any huge difference in the overall impact on the ratepayer.
It'll be a one-off. But what, I mean, what's 1% of rate there? What's a guess?
Well,
That's not a fair question.
no, but right now 1% rates right now. I mean, probably 1%, probably about 10 million.
So you drop a back end on the rates from 7 to 5 for a couple of years, and you know you're helping people who can't meet the bills. Also, I mean, we have no problem collectively paying our bill, but you know, grandma across the street from me is starting to look at me like I'm the Antichrist because I'm on this board. Yeah, I am kind of. I'm on this board, and she's, you know, what are you doing about rates? Well, you know, I have no control over rates, but man, I mean, you know, the people in the city are about to take a really big hit on water, and it's necessary and proper and all that stuff, but we kind of look at rates, and if you're $30 million, if it'll blunt a couple % off the rate, we did something.
Yeah, and my other concern is, and it's a question, like how do we compare to other cities our size, you know, other regions our size as far as rates are concerned? Are we lower? Are we higher?
I think we were historically lower.
Yeah.
Historically.
I thought we were.
And we're paying for that now.
And we're paying for it now. And so my concern again is that, okay, then we throw this money out there and it takes care of things for a few years, and that grandma dies.
Mm-hmm.
And you, God forbid. Okay.
Well, I think I'm in a will, so it's okay.
You probably wrote her will. Sorry.
But we're still back to where we were, you know, initially.
What are you? I mean, if you drop a couple percent off the rate, then that should carry through.
So from a perspective of a countywide perspective, when Grow started, it was to help, I mean, the whole goal was to help reduce flow so we could meet the consent orders. And by meet the consent orders, that's not just ALCOSAN, that's the other 83 municipalities. Right. And so one of the things that I'm seeing, which is converse to ALCOSAN, right? Because I can see ALCOSAN's charges on my bill.
Yeah.
And I live in the city, but when I'm talking to people who are calling about issues, they can't see their rates from the municipalities.
Right.
And depending on how municipalities bill, they hide that surcharge. Let me quote somebody that I learned a lot about from sewers, the cash cow. And, you know,
but I unbundled, sorry to interrupt, but with my authority, we've unbundled the rates.
Which is good because
line item on everybody.
Because everybody doesn't see that. And what's confusing to people and will continue to be confusing, we can talk about ALCOSAN's rates, but the thing that, that's the only thing we can opine on, but the reality of it is when Grow started, all of us were here at the table. Yeah. It started to help the municipalities meet their consent decrees and meet those orders. And I think it's done a really good job. How we use the next $30 million can be talked about. But the other thing that we have to recognize is how do we specifically talk to municipalities about how they're, and I don't even know if we can, I'm looking at Dave Moss now, how do we speak to municipalities about the fact that their surcharges, they're using those surcharges and ALCOSAN's rates are low comparatively. And I don't disagree, man. My water bill just went from something like $90 to $130 because of a June rate increase. And, you know, I blame that on my new shower, right? Because I'm in there for 20 minutes. But the reality of it is my water use never goes above what the minimum is.
We've unbundled the rates and most of the municipalities are running enterprises. So it's not like they're taking the sewer money and putting it into the parks.
General fund.
Yeah, it's
illegal, but
it's not necessarily. So, but and you can twist the numbers to say that this department's burdened by sewers and that kind of stuff. But I don't think that that's happened to the extent that you might think. I'm just thinking to myself, if we're parked on 30 million in reserves and we're raising rates 7%, that's pretty hard to swallow. You know, like, hey, how about going 4%?
What if the 30 million, you know, one of the things I was reading the notes from one of the other meetings and something Lisa just said now, like, you know, there's part of the issue is where the money is being spent. I'm hearing that for Grow, and I'm hearing scientific discussion about that too, like where should it be spent, where would it make the most sense in the whole system. So instead of this individual, maybe that's a way to help reduce rates if the money is used holistically in the system to where it would make the most benefit for the ALCOSAN system.
But isn't
where the rates are the rates you're referring to?
But isn't the presumption that ALCOSAN is reviewing the Grow application and qualifying whether it is in the best interest
individually?
Yeah, but every drop removed holistically helps. I mean, anything that you can reduce coming to the planet helps all of us because there's capacity. But if you're sitting on 30 and you're not moving it to a project, you know.
Can I ask the manager
what whether projects? Yeah, I mean that's the money that's still to be awarded.
Right.
We're looking for and we're collaborating with the municipalities. And as we pointed out in the working group meetings, there are municipalities that have not participated to the degree that we wanted to because the resources weren't there. Where other municipalities had ample resources, like Shaler, to, to get those funds. And we're trying to get those municipalities on board. And it's not that they don't want to, or they don't want to expend the resources. Everybody was kind of in a holding pattern with their COAs. They didn't know what they had to do. And they're just starting to figure out, okay, this is where we have to go. So Grow's got, I think you need to give those municipalities time to be able to try and access those funds. And, by saying, hey, let's take the $30 million and put it back to ratepayers. I understand ratepayers are, it'd be great for all ratepayers, but, for those municipalities that didn't have much of an opportunity because they were waiting to wisely spend that resource money, and all of a sudden they can't access that fund anymore. That's going to hurt them a lot more than it's going to hurt the ratepayers and individually.
How many years has the Grow program been? Yeah.
This is cycle 8.
8. So 8 years, and you've been sitting on the sidelines. You got to pick up the pace. Not you, those municipalities.
So you have to have 60% engineering done.
Right.
The engineering bill is half of the project, and a lot of municipalities just don't have that.
Yeah,
they don't have that money, and they don't have that.
And that's what we've been talking about in our meetings, is that how can we change, flip that.
What if we need to provide, kind of like people need technicals,
right? And so that's in discussion. We've been talking about that as well, because it's just a matter of the fact that when you start to look at the Shalers and the Fox Chapels and the Mount Lebanons and those municipalities that are affluent, they've been able to tap into that money in a way that a place like Pitcairn or Turtle Creek or the Braddock Rankin areas, that we've been totally really focusing on those areas, because we're looking at that at the Braddock Rankin North Braddock area in a way that is like, okay, this could be that kind of test case for making something really positive happen there with Grow.
Yeah, and there,
can I make a comment? Can I make a comment?
Dan, is that you?
And there's Mayor Penn too.
That's Ruthann.
I was trying video, but it doesn't work. Although I agree with Tim, about the rates and everything, I just think we need to give it more time. Having worked with smaller communities and things, not everybody has the great, perfect, efficient engineer, but also some new things might come down the sewer, excuse the pun, that maybe we could take advantage of it. I just think we should wait on transferring out that money, and just maybe another year or so, we can look at it, but it could really benefit things that we don't even know about yet. So I just wanted to pass that along. It's hard to break into you guys, so I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have a question.
Madam President.
Lisa, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ken has a question.
I'm sorry, Ken. I couldn't see your hand.
Madam President, I apologize for my tardiness. I would like to be added to the roll call. And if my presence adds to the quorum, that would be delightful, but I apologize for my tardiness. I'll let you continue with the meeting.
Thank you very much. And we do have a quorum now, so we're very appreciative.
Excellent. The mayor of Heidelberg does serve a purpose, which is wonderful. Thank you.
Mary, could we maybe go to adopting the minutes, because I may have to jump off and I don't want to mess up the quorum. Would that be possible?
Makes sense. Yeah.
All right, we'll move to that then. Ruthann, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the April meeting, April 26th meeting.
Motion to accept the minutes is received.
Motion, second or second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yay. All right, thank you. I just want to make one more comment on that last discussion, and then we'll move on to the next report. One of the things I hope we keep in mind is that the money, and I know how the reviews go, so I know it is, but we have to keep in mind that the project has to be viable. It has to be really doing the purpose which is to remove flow.
Right.
No. So, okay, thank you. Kelly, would you like to give us the report on the Clean Water Assistance Fund?
Absolutely. So, we met on Friday, July 21st, and we had Dan Thornton, the ALCOSAN manager of customer service and billing, was available to answer any questions regarding the fund. Mary Ellen requested a report of the number of ratepayers within each municipality who are participating in the program. And she also would like to know how the dollar amount was determined. Jeannie stated that the rate is based on the first 4,000 gallons quarterly. And the ratepayers currently receive a $42 credit. So every time rates were raised, ALCOSAN tried to keep parity and raised assistance. And the amount appears as a credit on their bill.
$42 credit quarterly or
Quarterly, yes.
Yeah.
And then Dan explained that the mechanics of the issuing the funds, that ALCOSAN sends out to Dollar Energy, the program administrator. They file that and identify who is eligible to receive the funds every quarter. And then they send us a file who applied. So the mechanics of how it gets there is the agency or municipality that does the billing for them. I asked what kind of community outreach is happening in the Turtle Creek area to inform people on the CWAF and who is eligible to participate. Kim Slater-Wood shared that a representative attended the Turtle Creek Council meeting on May 1st of 2023 and left behind ALCOSAN information material. She also stated that all ALCOSAN initiatives, including the Clean Water Assistance Fund, GROW, Scholastic Outreach materials, are all shared at all municipal council meetings, community outreach events, and to municipal managers at their meetings. ALCOSAN information is also shared with libraries and businesses within the municipalities, and the department makes sure the information is updated on municipal websites. Municipal relations and outreach have 73 of the 83 municipal communities in the service area, and governmental affairs division is responsible for the city of Pittsburgh. Lisa Brown asked whether we are experiencing a higher level of CWAF participation since we last met. And Kim stated that the level of the program participation flows for several reasons, such as additional household income, or someone passes away, or only property owners are eligible. She said that they're slowly making progress and may it might rise more with ALCOSAN's increased social media presence. The follow-ups that we have noted from this meeting were Dan will send ratepayer participation within each municipality, and the report will be sent to the committee via Jeannie, and Kim will follow up with the Dollar Energy Fund regarding whether they have arrangements for applicants who cannot visit a local agency due to work hours. And that was our report.
So
very good.
How do you apply for this? What is
Dollar Energy.
$2 energy?
Yep.
Okay, and then what are the requirements? What are the income levels?
The federal income level. It's the same as for the other utilities. We try very hard that they don't have to meet different numbers.
Like lying.
Well, when you apply for one, you can qualify for
Yes,
right, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So if you go online and be able to do it, which is part of the challenge, is getting people to go online to do that. Having some kind of like terminal or iPad available at events could be interesting, right? Have it at the library.
One app gets all discounts.
Yeah.
You can apply for it. Yeah, if they go through Dollar Energy,
if they go through
all discounts. And we do have an agreement with Pittsburgh Water and Sewer that when they have somebody who meets their discount, they offer them the ALCOSAN discount too.
There are nonprofits that work in the more distressed neighborhoods and communities that make that available for residents. I know that Brashear, right? Is Ruth Ann?
She had to jump off.
She had to jump off. Brashear does it for like the South Side and the Hilltop communities. Hilltop Alliance does some stuff. There's so that there are like central organizations that will have like a desk at, the other places that will do it is your state reps offices always have someone there that will help a person do that, sign up as well.
It seems like there should be a way though, and whether we do this within our own communities, because my numbers, they got back to me right away that day. Thank you so much, Kim, and Dan reached back down to me too. And frankly, I was surprised at how low they were.
That's everybody is saying that.
And yet go back to what Tim said, that everybody's complaining about the rates. And so here's this program that a lot of these residents would qualify for, and they're not doing it. I think they have to maybe try to think of something creative, because I tell people this all the time. Nobody ever wants to talk to the government. We're the last people, and usually the people that need services the most are the ones that are most afraid or most avoided. That I think this applies in all kinds of cases. So we need to be more creative. Like I mentioned our food bank, and I've already got some of the information that Kim sent me to my food bank for them to, and I said, maybe there's a way for me to get someone there that could help them with the laptop. I think you have to meet some people where they're at.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank have that, because they have, they're just there, they have kind of a wraparound service for people.
We're dependent on Dollar Energy for the work with the social service organizations, because they pay them a fee for each application they fill out.
You're right.
And it's important to those agencies to be able to get that fee.
But you could have like some of those agencies, like for instance, I know that in so many communities, even the more distressed communities, have community days. You could have somebody, you could invite one of those groups to come to a community day and say, hey, advertise that they're available to sign people up for this slew of
We've had
reduction.
Limited success. We keep trying.
Yeah.
People are embarrassed, but
They don't want to do it in
a setting like that too.
That's true too.
Yeah, that's a stumbling block as well.
Yeah.
We could reach to one of those communities.
Yeah, there's community outreach. You guys have a lot of good social service agencies. And even though, like Jeannie, I hear what you're saying around, they get paid for the applications. That's great. I don't discount that, but if we want to get the word out about it, it almost feels like, we've gone into this cycle of even the smaller communities, like you can go door to door and let people know. It's an effort, it's work, but it's still an opportunity. Shaler's a little bit more spread out, right? I mean, Etna's, 0.03 miles. So it becomes a lot manageable.
We're doing 3 distributions in Bellevue, 3 different agencies. In one case, a private individual is doing backpack distributions for kids. So why can't you tuck a flyer in those backpacks?
Right. Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
The free lunch programs that happen in the parks.
Yeah.
500, 202 tacos in Bellevue. She bought 500 backpacks and is handing those out.
Yeah, we have an organization.
God bless her.
They're giving free lunches every day, summer too.
Yeah. And the food bank has a major social service component to it now. They have their own little area you can walk in. So when you walk in and it looks like it's a giant eagle. So you walk in, you look like it's a giant eagle, but they also have like people that do nothing but social service supports to folks that have need. And they distribute to all these pantries. They could be a single point of contact.
And I think there's a level of trust already established there.
Right.
So it has to be something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, I don't think Lloyd showed up, did he? Okay, the flow reduction report, I have it, was sent to me. I was not at that meeting, so please bear with me. I read it over once or twice, but basically, some of the communities reported on some reduction for projects that are happening, specifically Lloyd coming in reported about 3 that are having in Homestead. Lisa Warder-Brown reported on a couple that are happening within her area. She gave a brief update on those. And then Lisa asked a very interesting question. She wanted help in addressing some of the wet areas and how that land is being used in ways to mitigate the flow in that area. So there was a discussion. Tim Prevost was here and mentioned that there were a lot of resources available to municipalities that go into different kind of analyses of these things. And based on what you see in this information, you can determine what flow reduction method could be used. If you have high groundwater, you want to line the pipe. If you have high peaking factor, you want to go look and see if the roof leader's tied in or any other illicit stormwater making its way into the sanitary store. Sorry. So Tim suggested that, you know, perhaps one centralized location for program source control information that has been collected over the past 10 years would be helpful. Dave, do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, Tim? No? I'm just reading one report though. Well, thank you. And that way you'd have maybe a good understanding of the scale of the problem and where to look. And it was reading this and hearing what Lisa said before that was making me think about it, like to spend the $30 million. Last thing, Darla pointed out, one of the biggest challenges around flow reduction conversation is the limited capacity of one organization, which is the second time we're touching on limited capacity for one organization or municipality for inspection and management, unless the municipality makes it a priority. Tim noted that you'd have to identify who wants to take on that responsibility. If it's not the communities, who would it be? And then Darla stated the same one that paid for the GROW program, which is the ratepayers.
Right, well, it is. It's all, yeah. It always comes back. We ready? I might be able to do this a couple more times in my career. We are all ALCOSAN.
Then Dave Montz was in attendance from Three Rivers, and he commented that the municipalities were already required under the last order to do a downspout disconnect. Municipalities ordinance require owners to do a dye test to verify downspouts are still disconnected at the time of sale. Dave said he wouldn't be surprised when the next sort of orders came out that municipalities must go after the leaking laterals. What did you say, Dave? Okay.
Can I ask a clarification question with that? Is that for all communities, CSO and SSOs?
CSOs don't have to disconnect.
CSOs don't have to disconnect because they have a permit.
Right. Well, I understand that, but
right.
There's.
Yeah, this is referring to sanitary.
Okay, right. I just want to make sure because there's confusion out there.
Well, I know when I read it, I'm like, well, no, my bird doesn't say that, and I don't have to do that because I have a permit. So that's
sanitary. Get back to the street, get right back in the store.
Yeah,
right back.
I'm not going to talk about my water and sewer authority, not this one, but the other one.
You know, so what we're talking about here wouldn't help a combined store community, but so Dave suggested that emphasizing at the time of sale to do a lateral line video inspection. So the cost can be rolled into the mortgage, spread across the term of the mortgage. Lloyd suggested that there is a need for a lateral line inspection program, similar to what's done with the lead water lines that I believe the city was doing the inspections on the lead water lines and doing a replacement. And then maybe that would be a way to get the terracotta lines all separated and out. Dave also suggested that's a good starting point to look at statistically at the communities that have lateral ordinances, which are probably very few, I would imagine.
I think what I was trying to get across there, and I think Tim and I were talking about, is has there statistically has it shown any reduction in flow? And what is happening with this lateral? But we don't know. We're saying, oh, it works. Doesn't work, and that's what
you're suggesting. Video inspection, like we do dye test.
Yeah,
we don't do video, but we're requiring dye test at point of sale.
What some of the communities are getting back to us in my own personal experiences with the heavy root intrusion. If somebody does a dye test, the plumber's only going to stand there for a period of time.
Yeah.
And that dye never makes it to the line. So the assumption is, oh, it's fine. It's not connected, but it really is. The other thing that is with the lateral, the video is more technology. Then we've discussed smoking areas. Should we do a pilot program to smoke in an area to see whether or not one is really connected? Because it's just starting to work its way out.
We've done that. Smoke tested an area, it looks like war. There's smoke coming out of it. The other thing we're finding is, it's not the ground.
I'm surprised you're going to tell me it looked like a Kiss concert. There's like
the other thing we're noticing is the dye test. So we're typically finding driveway tracks. You got to disconnect or raise the driveway, and then we'll go back 2 weeks later, and they just removed it. It's
that's the problem. It's an ongoing development, and that's why people will say, "Well, I just sold the house a year ago. Why are you making me get a dye test again?"
Right.
Unfortunately, people connect back up. The only thing I would say about the CSO when we talk about not disconnecting, I think what communities need to keep in mind, there's many communities that are doing separation programs.
Yes, right.
So if you did a separation program in that area, you want to follow through and disconnect.
Oh, most certainly.
The downspouts and get them out to the street. But I don't know if some of those happen.
Well, there's so many inconsistent messages out there, right? And again, my experience is very much, it always comes back to ALCOSAN because everybody believes it's ALCOSAN. And they don't understand the differences in their communities. And even with the groups that you work with, Dave, like the municipal managers, they're because everybody has different messaging, right? My cousin lives in Green Tree. This is what my cousin is doing. And I live over in Bellevue, and this is what somebody else is doing. It's never the same, right? In our community, I can't tell you how many plumbers tell our residents that they have an illegal connection.
Yeah, so there's
and they're telling people, and the ones that don't come and ask, they're charging them tens of thousands of dollars to disconnect their downspouts, which I'm telling you, if I get my hands on a few plumbers, I have a list, and I'm trying to find out legally how we can stop, because they're saying that. And they're saying, this is really weird because this happened today. I had an argument with someone today, plumber who works in Shaler all the time. And it's a law in Shaler. So you people don't know what you're doing here. Shaler has the law and requirement because that's what the federal law is. It's so frustrating, especially in my case. I've been saying the same thing every 10, 20 years. You have to teach people all over what a combined sewer system is, right? And all of that. Here I am again, but now it's getting, like I said, we've had people who've been told, afraid, elderly, vulnerable people who had plumbing problems and ended up spending $20,000 to $25,000 extra because some plumber who thinks he knows the law, and we keep sending the message that you have to disconnect your downspouts when you only have to if you're in a sanitary community. So, you know, there is an issue there with messaging. And
yeah, I think that at some point, Dave, it would be intriguing to see how Three Rivers could take that messaging on. I mean, you were a municipal manager for a very long time, so you get exactly what we're saying, right? You know exactly what we're saying. The work that you do is very specific to the engineering community and the municipal community, but then there's this overlay on top of it because nobody knows the difference between a combined sewer system and a sanitary system. Nobody knows. And when you're a person that buys a house and moves from Bellevue to the city of Pittsburgh, you disconnect and you're running your water right out into the right of way, which creates a lot of public health issues and public health safety. Some level of you know, there's never going to be enough money for inspection. There's never going to be enough money for people to go back. And the health department stopped doing this in 2013 because of the issues just in the city of Pittsburgh alone. But the messaging for the customers becomes really important because they don't know which way is up. Because we're such a small community. I live in Penn Hills, I'm doing one thing, but I live in the city, I do another thing. But my mom, who lives in Plum, is doing something completely different. Which, by the way, all her sewer goes into the abandoned mine because it was never connected. Okay, just as an FYI on that, right?
I think there's a bigger picture of this people. I'm going to be candid. There's a lot of municipal officials that don't know what's going on. I was there. A lot of municipal officials that use the ALCOSAN as their cop-out.
I know.
It's not us. They don't say, you know, and somebody's going to say they. Well, I'll say later. The rate part is it's interesting to see that. You look at our rate surveys, ALCOSAN's 9 something of 1,000 per tree. There's municipalities that charge 6, 7 per 1,000 gallons, dollars per 1,000 gallons, just to maintain their system. And we all know it's more expensive to treat than to transport. So when you're looking at what your rate is for your maintenance, you ought to look at how close you are to the other and look yourself in the mirror and say, who's really charging more? Because I would argue it's far more expensive to treat the sewage than it is to transport the sewage. And I just would interject what Tim was saying earlier about growth. I think what's happened is people have had their heads buried in the sand, these communities that haven't went after the growth. They've had their heads buried in the sand. We're not going to do anything. And now all of a sudden when the COA's out there saying, you have to remove. All of a sudden, that head's coming up out of the sand, and they're looking around. Well, who's going to help me? Who's going to help me? A couple of the communities we talked about in the economically stressed areas, they have programs out there. Politically, they can't get them off the ground. I mean, let's just say how it is. Right. It's not necessarily sometimes the money; it's the political aspect. Right. ALCOSAN has done a lot of work.
Yeah.
We just pointed out to one community that said, "Look at this study that ALCOSAN did years ago. They picked where you can put a green. Oh, I didn't know that. You know, coming to our meetings, 50% of the engineers are new. I
noticed how young they are.
They don't remember the first part. They don't remember how Arnetta stepped up to the plate and did the regional flow monitoring that saved us all money.
Right.
So people don't, we have to try to, we're doing this re-educating, but it always upset me. Everybody goes, well, that's ALCOSAN's problem. No, it isn't. It's your bill to ALCOSAN. And if we municipalities don't cut the flows going to ALCOSAN, this treatment plant will never be able to be stabilized. So it's us. And I think that's where you're right, Don. It's us. It's not.
This is how you do it, Dave.
It's us.
This is how you do it.
Oh, wow.
Just a long time ago, because my boss was very clear that it wasn't us. It wasn't them, it was us. And we were all ALCOSAN. And I'm glad that happened, because that meant that really propelled the conversations that were easier to have when we're coming to ALCOSAN going, wait a minute, you got to figure out a way to do green, gray, grow. And a lot of that happened because we selectively around the table wanted to work together to do that. And it wasn't us against them.
I think, you know, I don't know, we talked in the office today because I'm getting hoarse telling the same thing. I'm actually thinking of making, and I don't know if they'll do it, flyers for our real estate agents. We give them flyers now and tell them what houses are in the floodplain. It's right in there. Here's where you will be required to buy flood insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, they get the flood map, they get everything. Now, I even make them sign a letter every year. I am handing this out. You know, I'm thinking of adding something to this about you live in a combined source community, and we'll give packets that have information on our downspout disconnect ordinance and permit and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's part of the problem too. People don't even understand, you know, right. Yes, did you want to?
I would like to just jump over quickly since we were talking about rates before. I prepared a memo for all of you on the LIWAP extension. That was COVID money that for the first time would provide relief for people who are in arrearages on their water or sewer bills. They have to be in a crisis that could mean that their water would be turned off. It's back for a very short time. I believe all the municipalities actually did do what they needed to do the last time, which was to become a vendor of the state so they could get paid from this. But this is not money that has anything to do with ALCOSAN because of the way our billing is. So it's really important for the municipalities to know that if they've got ratepayers who are in arrears, they need to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, there's this money. It's there for a very short period of time till August 11th. And that memo has how they can apply. And there's also on the website with the state, there are all these social media pieces that you can use to get the word out too.
We got one in the mass, right? And we used it on social media. So I would imagine maybe all the municipalities got it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just sit there thinking
last year, but none this year yet.
I just got it because I only put it on.
They just did this
social
just
media.
like a 30-day.
Yeah, like maybe Monday or Tuesday we have it's a 1-page flyer. And I'm sitting here thinking I should have made sure Hampton Shade Water got it. Yeah, if you put
because they do have flyers.
They are Hampton Shade Water is a vendor for Zetna. So they do handle both, but
I'm pretty sure that folks would know or be able to identify who would qualify, who's in arrears.
So and you have to be delinquent.
Yeah, have to be delinquent and just like get them to apply. So, and again, because this is still COVID money is disappearing fast for a whole lot of reasons, but there was always time limited. So I wanted to make sure it's going to be in the municipal connections coming out, and we just want to make sure that everybody knows about this. So if you're talking to any of the municipalities in your basins, please let them know.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think next steps for we're going to be rescheduling meetings for the next.
Well, do we want to do working groups?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. Do we want to continue the working groups?
I mean, frankly, we had a fall off in participation this time among the members, not among the staff. You know, and we are willing to provide the opportunity for these discussions and our expertise.
Can we get a list of the past meetings and what the attendance was in each one? Because you never know. Like
you've got that right.
You know, there could be a vacation. Like right now, you might not want to use this past, but that's one of the things. Because I'm sitting here thinking about how we talked on and on quorums, God bless you. And then if we had evening meetings, we'd get a quorum, and here we were again not having a quorum. So,
it's summer though too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. Vacation. So maybe if we could get that list, would that maybe be helpful information in deciding whether we want to move forward or maybe make them not quite as often?
We met one time with each working group between each quarterly meeting. Although 2 of the working groups this time didn't have enough interest to warrant a meeting. They talked about numbers. Yeah, so we can certainly send that out. Definitely there won't be anything in August because it's vacation month.
Even if we cut them down, but let's look at the numbers first before we make that would be my recommendation, and then maybe make them twice a year instead of quarterly, depending.
Whatever you want.
Anybody else have any feedback?
I agree with you, Mary Ellen. I think that makes sense. Let's look at the numbers first and then make a decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Interest in sewer is wanes, it waxes and wanes.
Until you get your bill.
Yeah, it's like, well, but again, there's a difference between my water bill and sewer bill that I get from PWSA and the bill that I look and know ALCOSAN, but I'm not normal. Like, I get it, right? And don't say a word anyway.
Here's a revelation.
Not one word.
It's a disclosure.
Yeah, not one word, but I'm part of that small percentage of people that is looking at my bill and going, what am I getting charged for this? What about this? Why is there a fee there? Why am I paying $2? You know, and so I'm asking those questions. And I think Dave makes a good point about his rate study, which might be important, at least from my perspective, and from what you're talking about, Tim, is might be important to have part of that as a discussion item in maybe a working group for a minute or something, right? Because you bring that up.
Who was that?
Who was that, please?
This is a business. Thank you.
That was Mayor Russo. Was it Mark?
Getting a call. You're getting a call.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, when you say do a rate study,
they do it every year.
They do it every year. I mean, we do a rate study with the water authority just to throw everybody else under the bus because our rates are low. But if you do a rate study and you publish that rate study, you're going to get elected official kickback because those who are charging high rates, I think we're at 220 for sewer. But if you're above 220 for sewer, you're going to get.
Well, I'm not saying that we do. So the rate study that Three Rivers does, every year they do it by phone.
Yeah.
They ask people. Some people don't participate. They choose not to be a part of it. I haven't looked at it.
Let me just tell you about the rate study. Yeah. There's a lot of communities that have no clue on what they're charging and how we have to try to tell them, like, no, not the ALCOSAN. What are you charging? So it goes back to what you're saying.
You published it too. Just to the
it's on the but it goes to your point, Tim, because I don't want to. I think that your issue about rates is important, right? But I think that it's a conversation that needs to be more equitable. Because while we can look at ALCOSAN's rates because we're sitting around the table, if I was sitting on PWS's board or you're sitting on Hampton Shale's board, we have to look at those rates also in combination. And that's part of what we're not doing. We're singling out the one, or I don't want to say it, the organization that treats all of it is the organization that we right now collectively can say, well, we should deal with the rates. But you think that I haven't filed my little thing with PWSA? Are you kidding me? Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I raise it only because if we're the advisory committee to the authority,
right,
it's going to be pretty hard to go back to the municipalities and say, have you guys discussed further? No, or just remodel the plan.
One of the notes
that's what I'm suggesting.
We'll make sure the committee gets the survey out. So if you haven't looked, we'll give you the link, we'll make it look out. My only comment is, look, I was in the business for 32 years, like you do. And my comment was when somebody came back from, I'm just using the Mons family as an example. Now there's only 2 of us there, so there's less water. So we're paying less than if my municipality. The tube is going to be transported. Let's all face it. Nobody wants it in their house. So my thing is I look at the Mons bill every month for water and sewage. Okay, it's a little steep. But I look at the cable bill. And it's
all the time.
3 times or 4 times it, and nobody complains. Yeah. So I'd sooner have the waste out of my house than the cable that I sit around every month to tell my wife, why do we have this? Because we only watch 4 channels. Right. But we have 1,000 channels. We only watch 4. But I'm paying $320 a month, almost stroke out. But yet people will complain about the sewage bill. But all I'm saying is you gotta put it in comparison. Yeah. We're only human. Nobody wants to blame ALCOSAN, and part of it, just like the way of the house. By unseen for the pipes, we all thought, okay, the plant's working. So it dumps water into the river. I mean, sewage into the river, who cares? You know, when I went to engineering school, it was, the solution to pollution was pollution. Right?
That was just like not too long ago.
Yeah, right.
I remember our last saying that, like one of the first times I ever said something.
And give you a rates there.
Yeah.
And I think look at that maintenance fee first.
Yeah.
And look at some of the percentages of increases from one year to the next. You know, when I was a municipal manager.
That's consent order work. That was my point before. It's consent order work that the municipality has to do on top of what they're pitching in to pay for what has to be done in ALCOSAN. So in fairness to the municipality, that, you know, if you have a consent order that says you have to do, you know, blah, blah, blah.
You gotta do it too.
You know, 85% reduction in your combined sewer overflows, you know, is your target that you have to reach. I mean, I see those reports.
And the rates.
There's people that are miles and miles away.
Well, they're unbalanced because of size. You and I, you preach to me every time we drive together. But,
which is why you, I guess, didn't offer.
Yeah, I can know. How many residents?
Today, talk about sewers at all.
Oh, how many houses do you?
It's about 1,700.
So 1,700. So your rates are obviously going to be higher than 12,500, right?
Right.
And so you can't just say that Etna's overcharging its residents. Well, Etna doesn't have the catch area that Shaler does. Yeah, and that's not always going to be
I would just ask you to look at, and I'll see if we can add a call. I would just ask you to look at when you see the offset rate go up 7% or whatever. Look at what some of the municipal rates have gone up. Municipal rates have gone up a lot more than 7% a year. So sometimes that percentage.
I'd be surprised to see that.
Well, and I'm telling you, they are, I'm sure they are, but a lot of it's consent. It's kind of the gold line standard that we have to.
Well,
don't bring that up, please.
Yeah, well, I'm not over that. That's why I said it.
I know.
Gold line standard, but anyway.
Well, that was the nerd heritage.
Well, yeah.
The ALCOSAN rates are consent decree.
Bring Larry Lennon back to explain the gold line.
Well,
that's okay.
And we get to, you know,
we love them, but we don't.
I mean, we're charged, this advisory committee was set up as part of the consent order, and there's only certain things that we're supposed to advise on. And I think we've had this conversation several times now that we really.
No, it's
great discussion.
We are supposed to be talking about the clean water plan, which is everything. It's not certain things, it's the entire plan. Okay, so we're not restricted to like just certain things.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we've decided that these are the things we're going to focus on.
So we have to just,
we don't talk about stormwater.
Right.
That we don't talk about that. So that's
notwithstanding the fact that there's a lot of people that are trying to drag us into that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I know, but we do not, that is the one thing we do not talk about.
I agree.
All right. Yes, next is Jane.
So we brought extra cards promoting the open house, which is September 16th here at the plant from 9 to 4. Please help us. I mean, if you haven't come yourself, please come. It is really in many ways a life-changing experience to see all of this. I have had gotten people to come who said, why would I want to do that? I said, trust me, you'll love it. And they do. I mean, they learn about science, we feed people, we let them make direct deposits, they get tours. And it gives the staff an opportunity to be proud of what they do and show it off. So you can help us by making sure everybody knows about it. We can get everything to you electronically also. So we have extra cards right here for you to take.
Thank you. New business. I have, anybody have anything with you to bring? What happened?
No, Dave, we have general updates.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped a couple things. Wow, sorry about that. I did not mean that. Do we have any updates from any of the basins? No, okay.
No, we're in a holding pattern on some things.
We're doing a joint MS4 project to borrow mill. We're ripping up the school district property. So
good. All right, Dave, any Green Rivers update?
Yeah, we're currently have 18 multi-municipal collaboration projects going on that represents encompasses about 53 municipalities. We are assisting 5 other municipalities. When I say assist, is helping them understand their consent orders. PWSA has been at the table. They come to all of our meetings. PWSA has had a couple of meetings with communities that we've asked PWSA to come, even though they don't have an order. Communities have to flow into them. They're flowing in. Their lines of communication are open. The COA is really kicking in now, where the separate source communities have had to do their flow monitoring. So now they're understanding their systems of what they have to get out. This is where I think the real key part of the GROW grant is going to kick in. You gotta do the reduction because of the order. Who doesn't want to pay pennies on a dollar? And Tim's been at every meeting, explaining how it works. I personally think we'll see a rise in people understanding the need to apply for it, because now the emphasis on they've done their studies under the COA. So now it's like, oh, I really have to do this one. So they're understanding it. We talk about at our monthly meetings the impact that GROW has had with other communities. And I think it starts kicking light bulbs onto other communities. Oh, I might be able to do something like that. So, Tim is at every meeting, always open to do that. So we have a great line of communications there. I spoke earlier about the initiative that ALCOSAN did years ago about the developing where green projects can go. We're really putting the emphasis on that. I know Lisa talked earlier about Braddock, North Braddock, Braddock Hill, and finally got that meeting set up. And I think that as these orders are really kicking in, they're doing it. The combined source communities, we're helping people still understand their systems through schematics and doing a lot of flow monitoring. We're helping with some modeling in some of the areas that people are really starting to understand the systems. I think the rate survey is something we'll get out to you. I just get extremely passionate about people complaining about it, because I personally never really heard a lot of those complaints in our community. People didn't complain. So I just think that maybe it's messaging. I think not only should we go after the residents who pay, I think we need to educate some of the managers, and not the ones that are in the room understand it. You'll be amazed if you took a bunch of managers in a room and ask them different things. They don't understand it because they don't want to be bothered with it. And some have authority, so there's a difference to them. So you can't necessarily appoint them. In your example, your watershed, we didn't realize that O'Hara had removed all the flow from the one area because they had directed it to a different point of connection. But that was never communicated well. So, what's a long story is, it all comes down to a lot of times communication. But I will say people in the room will create different templates. And so I think we're really making a lot of progress.
Well, and they were given to everybody in the room. So Chris has the same map that I have, and Ross has the same map that I have. So, and I did make some comments to Ross Township maybe, that you see clearly where that you come in here, because I've had that conversation for like the 85th time that you do flow here. The map they were wonderful.
I think what happened with it was like, oh no, we don't flow there, we flow over here. People really got interactive.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And
we made corrections right on site.
We're learning now about Well, I didn't know I had SSO. No, because it was pumping sewage in somebody's 3 communities down, and you're contributing to it. Now they're starting to see that picture. And by the way, the order says you have to reduce the flow to that SSO. Well, I don't have an SSO. Yes, you do. So we're making, I think we're making a lot of progress.
Yeah, I found the materials.
Taking this long, but I think
Yeah, I found the materials in the meeting. Fascinating. It really was. Yeah, thank you. Let's see, I think. Is that all? Next do we have any public comment? No public comment, thank you. And I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Unless there's anything else? Nope.
To adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Tim Rogers. Public comment? Yep. No, we did that.
I second.
Yep.
We don't even vote. She can just adjourn it.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'd be stuck here.
You can have the direction.
No, we're not budging a week.